Hello, we're back. We made it. We're here. Audio's fixed. Yay. And I really appreciate all of your patience last week. And so does Mr. Chelly, who's right here, of course. All right. So, yes, the sound is fixed on YouTube. Thank goodness, right? But I was venting to someone about what happened, and they had an interesting reply. They said, well, you know what? This might be an educational moment for people to kind of talk a little bit about what happened. I know a lot of you dolls are interested in gear, so I thought that would be a good place to start. Plus, your girls just gotta vent a little bit. But this is a really, I think this will be really important, especially if you're interested in streaming. If you are a musician who wants to start doing things on YouTube, especially live sound. And we're going to talk a little bit about what happened last week on YouTube. It's so great to see everyone in the YouTube chat and on Instagram. Hi, Juan. So nice to see you. So let's talk for a second. So my last stream of 2025 was the holiday live stream, which I look forward to every year. And I used my streaming interface. So for those of you who might not know what an interface is, it is something that allows your microphones to talk to your computer. So keep that in mind. That's before we get into it. That's the easiest way to explain it. Since I had live streamed by our Christmas tree, I didn't put my audio interface back where it usually goes. And I couldn't find it last week. And I'm frantically going around trying to find it. I can't find it. And what I'm referring to is my Focusrite Scarlett. If those of you wanting to get into remote recordings, it's a great interface to start with. I know a lot of, it's used frequently amongst podcasters, but it's also great for musicians. A lot of my earlier projects and the sounds you hear on these streams is the Focusrite Scarlett. So I couldn't find it. So instead, I pulled out this guy. Fancy. So this is the Apollo Solo, and it's by Universal Audio. So there it is for Instagram, and here it is for YouTube. So this was recommended to me by a sound engineer buddy. And I kind of wanted to upgrade and get something fancier when I recorded my first album. So I got this, and I said, I'll just use this for the stream. It'll be fine. Well, the thing is, when you get something that's a little more heavy duty, a little more complex, it requires more power, just hardware wise. So I have to plug this into an outlet, and I have to plug it into a Lightning USB port. And what that means is it's basically a port on your computer that gives extra oomph. It gives extra juice to whatever you plug into it. And it's a necessity to use this. You need, I believe it's called a lightning port. Your girl found out last week her laptop doesn't have one of those. So my laptop that I bought a couple months ago does not have a lightning port. I thought that was a standard. I learned something new. I guess it's not a standard for laptops. So So my computer couldn't even register this last week. Could not even detect that this was plugged in. And so what happened was my computer defaulted to my webcam microphone, which is not going to give you good audio quality. Webcam microphones just, a musical instrument has a lot of complex sound waves and things like that. And that's why I use microphones to really capture a good sound. And so this could not be detected. And my sound last week was not good. I was also very frustrated because I was so happy with my hair and my makeup and my lighting last week. It looks fine today. I don't think it looks as good as it did last week, but that's okay. Oh, hello! We have a doll from New Zealand. Totally random segue. I want to hear about all your favorite things because that's on my bucket list to go to New Zealand for a vacation. Anyways, so yes, this could not talk to my computer, and that's why you dolls were hearing my computer defaulting to the webcam. So, of course, after the stream, I was very frustrated, and I found my Focusrite Scarlett in the one room. It's always in the one room you don't look in. It was in that room, of course. And again, the Focusrite Scarlett, it's very good quality. I'm happy with the sound that comes out of it. And it doesn't need that much power. So whenever I'm on the road and I might need to record something, if I need to bring it to a gig, that's what comes with me. So my Focusrite Scarlett is kind of like my road interface. And this is, higher, more expensive. This might be 2 or 3 times more expensive than the Scarlett. This is not going to leave my house. So, it needs more tech. It needs more tech because it does more, and it, really has a lot of stuff in here. Like, for example, it has a built-in preamp. And for those of you who don't know what that means, built-in preamp means basically I can go in and kind of EQ my cello. And basically what that means is I can bring up certain frequencies and I can cut out or lessen certain frequencies. Actually, you don't really cut out a frequency, you kind of lower it. So for example, the cello wolf tone, that's around most cellos, it's an F2 or 3. I'm going to bring that frequency down a little bit, and that's going to cut the harshness of a wolf tone. So there's a lot of stuff you can pre-program in here, and that way you do less editing in post. So that's a bit of a deep dive into interfaces, and again, it's this fancy piece of gear. You can see on the back where the microphone inputs go in, and basically this allows me to record stuff on my laptop. It allows me to stream from my laptop, but I don't have the right port, so I got to buy an adapter, which is kind of annoying. But yeah, the Scarlett interface is fine. I just couldn't find it last week, and I wanted to try to use this, and that didn't happen. So very sad. I was very disappointed. And also because I really value the quality of what I make and stream for all of you. So I really hope no one was frustrated. I would rather delay the stream than give you something that isn't good quality. So that's my little sob story. And now we're going to move on. Maybe. Yeah. It's okay. All right. Cool. So that's, oh, sure, of course. Yeah. You guys deserve a stream because I'm sure some of you have practicing questions. Some of you might have music industry questions. Always happy to share and talk about whatever you all want to talk about. The other thing we didn't get a chance to talk about was I went to NAMM. I believe 2 weekends ago now, I went to NAMM, and I was really looking forward to sharing that with all of you. So if you have any questions about that event, I'm more than happy to talk about it. A lot of you might have been seeing things on socials. A lot of people like to talk about NAMM, which stands for the National Association of Music Merchants. And that is a huge networking event. And also gear galore is everywhere. So if you have any questions about NAMM, it was my first time going. I had never gone before, so that was cool. All right. So y'all know the drill. I'll see some, I'll keep an eye on the chats, and when I see questions, I'll happily answer, and I'll play some stuff on cello just to pass the time. Because I know some people come on here and they expect me to be playing. We don't always do that here, but I like to improvise in between stuff, Yeah. So let's get Mr. Cello. Boop, boop, boop. Please don't make me improvise for an hour. That doesn't work. I ran out of fingers. Yay, we have a question on YouTube. Speaking of improvising for an hour, I don't think I've actually ever done that before, had to improvise for an hour. What are some techniques you use to make sure you have enough endurance for long shows? So that's a great question. This is about stamina. I've done long shows, so regularly I might have to do a show that's about 2 hours, or 45-minute sets times 3 with a little break, so it's almost 3 hours. And so what are some important things? So I'm going to start with non-practicing things. I'm very active. I go to the gym, and one thing I work on a lot is my back and core strength. And that's really important. So even something like getting involved in Pilates would be really beneficial for most, I would argue almost any instrument. And that's because if your core or back is weak, instead of sitting up tall, you're going to start kind of slumping in your chair or leaning or sitting crooked. If you don't have that little bit of extra strength to help you out. So that's pretty important. And it allows you to preserve your posture, because if you're playing and you're slanted, you're more likely to pull a muscle or hurt yourself. So I am regularly active, and I focus on regularly training my back and core. Another thing, and a lot of it is kind of like marathon running too. How do you run these long distances, or how do you play for a long time? Building. I practice on a day where I have more time. I practice about 2 hours a day as a full-time professional. And that's because I have to juggle other things. But by practicing 2 hours, I know I have that as a good baseline. So, practicing regularly. And if you can't do 2 hours, or you want to do more, when I was in college, I was doing 4 or 5 hours a day. You have to gradually build up to that. So doing 1 hour chunks spread throughout the day is pretty good. And also, I practice running through the shows I'm going to play. So I play them start to finish about 1 or 2 weeks out from the show. And the first day, I'm cooked. I'm so tired. Because the other thing, too, there's a difference between practice room you and then out on a stage being a performer you. And I learned that after a while, you have to get in that mindset of performing, looking around, being animated, if that's what your show requires. You need to practice that so that when you're at the show or having to play for a long chunk of time, it's not the first time you've done it. So just really practicing strategically and building it over time rather than trying to cram in stamina 2 days before your show. It's going to be pretty difficult. So having an active lifestyle, practicing for recreating what you're going to do for your gig, that's really important. And then just practicing good posture. The more, I talk about this all the time, both to you all and to my students, the more that you can play with your body weight. So kind of, you don't want to collapse your body, but this feeling of, I'll show you an example. So if I have a low elbow here, if I do that, I do have to lift the elbow a little bit when I get to the tip, but in general, my weight is below the string. It's down below the cello. So I'm allowing gravity to really allow me to sink into the string. Now if I press, there's a moment where it sounds big and then the string sounds compressed and it doesn't vibrate as freely. I don't know if you can hear the difference over a stream, but that has more of a bloom and warmth to the sound. This versus, it almost sounds like the string is fighting itself. So the more you can play with your weight, in a sense, behind and below the instrument and having the instrument come to you, rather than being on top of it, that's really going to wear you out fast. That's really going to wear you out really, really fast. So it's kind of a leaning rather than a pushing. So being very aware of that. I mean, if I play shows, and here's the thing, we're all human. You're playing a long show, you get tired, your shoulders might creep up a little bit. I mean, when you get tired and fatigued, we're not always as self-aware, and sometimes things will creep into our habits. I wake up, you know, if I don't do it properly, I'm sore the next day, or I feel more tired the next day. So just really practicing body self-awareness. And now my students know why I'm so on them all the time about their elbows and shoulders and wrists, because, you know, it's a hard habit to get rid of. It really is. So it's a good question. Next question. I have a question for nuance. Ooh, fancy. How do you vary vibrato speed and width to match the emotional character of a phrase? Wow. That's such a good question. That's such a good question. So I will tell you kind of what I tend to automatically do, and then some examples of exceptions. So it all depends on context. So let's say you're playing something pretty soft, like the beginning, let's see, maybe like Arpeggione by Schubert. You know, I kind of want a fluttery, soft sound, but I still want it to be energetic. The Arpeggione sonatas, it's very sleight of hand, it's virtuosic in its own sense, but it kind of has this melodic, intimate, so if I do it slowly, it just sounds a little sleepy. So another example, if you want something to have energy, or if you want something to sound a little, I almost think about someone shivering in the cold. If you want something icy sounding, like the second movement of Shostakovich Concerto. If you guys don't know it, it's a gem. It's such a beautiful melody, but it's so delicate, and it seems simple in contrast to the whole concerto, which is really tricky, but it's very beautiful. I don't know what happened with my bowing, but just kind of, if you want something that's soft and energetic, or something that is soft and kind of delicate and fragile and glassy, I do fast vibrato. Now, if you have something loud and you want it to penetrate and be like a laser beam, then you do fast vibrato in loud sections, like Dvorak, that first. A lot of people will hit that first B with kind of a stinger vibrato where you wind it up. Wait. Yeah, so you tilt the hand back, and then you throw it forward. And then if you want to do something grand and lush, then you do slow vibrato. So a little rule of thumb, again, the Dvorak Concerto is an example of a fast vibrato with a loud, full sound. So there are some exceptions, but generally softer dynamics, you tend to use a faster vibrato. And then for louder dynamics, you use a slower vibrato. But the faster the vibrato, the more energy something has, or whatchamacallit? I forgot. That's okay. Someone says I'm quiet on YouTube. I'll pull my mic a little closer. But I don't want to change it too much because I did a sound check earlier today and I thought it sounded okay. I don't want to mess with it too much. If you don't listen to this stream with headphones, by the way, I highly recommend it. It's going to really improve the sound. But anyways, oh yeah, and then how do we change the vibrato during a phrase? Yeah, thank you. Okay, cool. So again, kind of use that formula when you are going through a phrase. So let me take, I'm in Shostakovich land this month. So let me, again, I'm going to use a fast vibrato. And right there, because we're changing to something else, I slow down the vibrato a little bit to open up the sound and make it a little more warm. So we're getting soft. So I'm much slower by the time and then maybe the diminuendo. Now what if I start with no vibrato? That's a way to really make something icy and cold sounding, kind of creepy. There's also to consider when you don't want to use vibrato and something like that. And I got a little distracted because, oh my gosh, my dolls, we have Sons of Serendip in the Instagram live stream. If you all don't know Sons of Serendip, they were on America's Got Talent. I went to school with two of the members and I love them so much. Hi, Sons of Serendip. Yes, they competed on America's Got Talent. They're all incredibly sensitive, compassionate musicians. And I remember seeing them in the practice rooms when they were getting ready to go on the show. And they're just beautiful people and they travel around the country. It's harp, cello, voice, and keys. So I love Sons of Serendip. It's so good to see you on the stream. And that's Sons of Serendip. If you don't know who they are, you absolutely should. So, hi. Oh, so exciting. We're doing a live Q&A with our dolls about practicing music industry stuff and cello tips. So I'm going to go on to our next question. Have you ever had your left hand seize up or cramp? I've only had it playing the double bass. So what I will tell you is, thankfully not. I have had students though that are double jointed, and sometimes their fingers will lock in that sense. But me personally, I notice when I've noticed when my hands are tired. So again, if I'm doing a long gig and I'm not watching, I'm not super self-aware in like the last 30 minutes if I'm tired. Sometimes you'll wake up with the hand being sore or it feels tight. I've had my hand feel tight before, but again, lots of practice being self-aware of that so that doesn't happen so much anymore. If your hand does cramp out, it's a sign that something is squeezing that shouldn't be squeezing. And I will tell you, the most common cause is your thumb. So if you're feeling pain here or you're cramping here, then that means you're squeezing your thumb. And you know, in college and when I was learning about body self-awareness, that was the number one thing for me, was right here. And then if you continue to squeeze, the pain will move to your tendons here and also the tendons on the back of your arm. So if you feel any pulling up here or down here, it's a sign that you have tension in your left hand. And again, you do not want it. I mean, have I had pain here and here? Yeah, but when I did, I immediately took time off or practiced a lot less because, you know, this is kind of step one, then this is a progression, and then it just gets worse, and that's when you hear about things like tendonitis or carpal tunnel. So you don't want that. I'll tell you, you really don't want to deal with injuries like that. So, you know, I would talk to your teacher about some stretches you can do. There are some stretches you can do for your hands and your arms and things like that. And yeah, I hope that helps. Again, if anything's cramping up, it's because your hands are tight. I'll tell you one thing you can do. Actually, let me play some of this. Oh my goodness, I've been getting into finger drills in my practicing. And for cello, there is an excellent one by Fouillard. I can't say it right. Fouillard. That was worse. French. It's a French book, and it's called Daily Exercises for Cello. Louis R. Fouillard. The U and double L's in French always get me. But they have exercises like this, and you're meant to do them in all different positions and across the strings. But this will really encourage the flexibility of your fingers. And if your hand is sore after, that immediately tells you you're squeezing in ways you shouldn't be squeezing. So I'm not going to play the whole exercise. You'll get the idea of how it goes. But I've been warming up with these every day, and I honestly notice notice a big difference in especially my left hand pinky strength. So if you want to know the name of the composer or author of the book, it's Feuillard. Fouillard. Okay, someone gave me pronunciation in the chat. Thank you. Oh wait, right, because you don't pronounce the last consonant in French. I took 5 years of French, y'all, on and off. So I know some things, but the UL, it's like a tongue twister for me. So anyways, let's do these exercises. So just to give you an idea of how these go, that one always gets me. So it's just kind of that feeling of kind of all these different combinations, and you're supposed to do them in different positions too. So yeah, they're kind of like tongue twisters for your fingers. And, you know, I should probably be playing them faster, to be honest with you. So right, see, and some of the notes aren't super clear. It's that fourth finger to second finger. Everyone has a little bit of a time with that. So hold on. There it is. 4, 3, 4, 2. That's the one. So, you can really, and again, like, if your thumb is just absolutely cooked and sore, I mean, this will immediately tell you where you might be holding tension. I think for me, it's the spread between 4 and 2. So, you know, and it's a challenge, and also figuring out how to work with your unique anatomy, because for me, it's hard because you all can't see this on camera, but when people meet me in person, often they go, wow, you have really small hands. So I have to angle and spread my fingers a little more. Otherwise, you know, my second finger's sharp, but then the more you spread it, the more challenging, when I say spread, I mean kind of leaning this way. The more you do that, you lose some dexterity in the lift. So again, just finding time to train your weaknesses. Everybody has them. Everybody has playing weaknesses. But you know, it's your job to train for them, take care of them, and work on them. So this has been fun. I've been going through this book just for fun. I go through these phases where I get so hung up on my technique. I get really hung up on it. And it's weird. It comes and goes in waves where I'm like, what else can I pull apart to make better? So right now for me, it's left hand action and speed. And am I playing as efficiently as I can 100% of the time? It's a very one cool thing about an instrument is you'll be practicing it forever. I think Pablo Casals, there's a famous quote where he was like in his 80s and someone asked him, why do you still practice every day? And he said, because I still have more to learn. So if Pablo Casals can say that, I think we all can say that, right? So think about that if whenever you're having a rough day practicing, just remember Pablo Casals still practiced. Up until the very end. I think he would play like a whole Bach suite a day, do hand exercises, things like that. Very cool. So we have I think we have time for 2 or 3 more questions. And if no one has any questions, I'd be thrilled to just talk about some general tips, themes from teaching this week, some of the things. I can play more finger drills for you. No, I just practiced a bunch of those earlier. Cool. Let me see. There was something I wanted to tell y'all, and now I don't remember. It's okay. It's okay. Okay. Let's talk. We talked a lot about left hand. Let's talk about some right hand stuff. Excuse me, with the bow. Because we were talking a little bit about weight and applying your weight in the correct way rather than forcing the weight. Oh, what was your favorite part of NAMM? Yeah, let's talk about NAMM. I'm the one who mentioned it, and I already completely forgot. So, NAMM is a giant convention. For any of you who have done conventions like Comic-Con or some of the anime conventions, it's very similar to that, but everything's music themed. So there were about it was either 1,200 or 1,400 exhibitors. So that's a lot of booths and brands to see. I mean, you had really famous ones like Yamaha was there. Yamaha had a whole little wing part of it. I didn't get a chance to go, unfortunately, because everything was so big and I could only go for half of the convention. But it was really cool because I got to go and talk with people and be like, hey, I use your gear this way in my alternative cello playing. So getting to connect with the people who work for the gear you have, it's an incredible networking opportunity. And I think my favorite part of NAMM was getting to try instruments. That's my favorite part. So some of you saw it's on my Instagram. It's also on my YouTube Shorts that I got to play another version of the Forte 3D printed cellos. I got to try a Volta cello with speakers. It had built-in speakers in the body, which was really cool. And they also had, I was walking around with my electric cello, and so the way I should describe it, NAMM is divided into wings or areas. So one area where I kind of started was kind of for more classically inclined instrumentalists or musicians. Acoustic traditional instruments, things like Forte 3D, a lot of carbon fiber instruments. There were instrument cases. There was a giant brass and woodwind section. So that was kind of one wing. Then you had another wing that had guitar stuff. A lot like pedals, pedal boards, effects, strings. There were some string companies, like for cello, Larson Strings had a booth. And what was really cool was I got to bring my electric cello in because I had a certain pass. And I got to plug in V into different amps and different gear and try it out. So that was really cool. I really enjoyed that, getting to try out gear with my own instrument, which was really fun. And then, so that was my favorite part. Some of the other areas, they had a whole area just for DJs, light, so like lighting, show lighting, stage lighting. So they had all kinds of sections. And then they had in another building, because that's how many people there were, and a whole nother building was all software. Yeah, just music software for sound engineering, recording. Avid was there. Avid, they make Sibelius and Pro Tools. Those are some of their more well-known products. So yeah, I really enjoyed all of that. And getting to hang out with some of the string players I know online, and getting to meet some of them in person, or see them in person again. It was kind of like a little reunion of some of the string players that do things on social media. So that part was really fun too. So reconnecting with people and trying out instruments and gear was my favorite part. Yes, I loved NAMM. I definitely want to go back. Definitely want to go back to NAMM. So yeah, it was my first time getting to go. I finally got to go. Would highly recommend. Especially too, it's very good networking. Very, very good networking. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. All right. Let's talk about some bow stuff. Yeah. Bow stuff. Yeah, we were talking about weight. So one of my favorite exercises, this is fun, this will really help you get in touch with your weight, is, and I'll tell you the story. You've heard me talk about one of my amazing mentors, Peter Howard. Peter Howard, he still is, I should say. He's an incredible cellist. He was principal of the St. Paul Chamber Orchestra for a long time. I got to work with him at a couple music festivals. And, you know, he's in my teacher family tree. And I would say most of my bow stuff is from him. He really, really did a lot for me and taught me so much about the bow in just a summer, you know. But this is one of his exercises. He was so funny. You know, I always want to be very respectful of teachers, and I see them, you know, in a very high regard. And he said, Carol, he said, come up. He said, take my bow off the string. Now at this point, he might have been in his 70s, early 70s, I believe. And I was like, I don't want to go, I don't know how much the instrument costs. I don't know how much the bow costs. And he was like, no, I please, like, and I could not pick it up. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't lift the bow. And that's because he was so using all of his body weight. I shouldn't say all of it, but like between the back and the upper body, he was so in the string that I physically could not lift up the bow, which was wild. So the way, one of the ways we practiced that was let's do maybe G string. I like to start on the middle strings because then, you know, it's a little more central, the arm's a little more neutral. So you pick the D or G string and you kind of wiggle the bow. Like you're rubbing your heels in the sand. So you kind of, yeah, and once you feel pretty settled, you want to pull a little note. So you just want to budge the bow like a fraction of a millimeter. And, oh, the other thing, sorry, when you're doing this back and forth, you want to actually see the string physically moving without you playing a note. So it's not, it's, you're so, oh, there it is. Nope, that wasn't a good one, so. Do you hear that? Sounds like a frog. They should be shorter. There it is. That's a good one. Do you guys hear that? I hope you can hear it. It's like, it's almost like it almost sounds like a pizzicato. And that's a good sign of weight. I remember when I first tried, I was just like that's what happens. But it's one of those things where you're able to just move to the next little notch in the bow. You're so heavy. Nope. But you see what I mean, that was okay. That was only okay. You just want one of those little tiny Nah, but that, I mean, it's better than, you don't want to hear that. It's a very pure sound. It's not super scratchy. So if it's scratchy, that's a sign that you're not deep in the core of the string. And that's kind of, I guess that's what this exercise helps you do. It helps you to get out of that surfacey sound and really get down into the core of your string. That was better. It's better if it's, you know, ideally you want that little, but if it's a little longer, that's okay. It's harder on the thicker strings, of course, like the C string. That was okay. But see, can you see it? I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but I'm actually moving. It's kind of like the string is doing this without making a sound. So that's the first step. If you don't, or if you're pressing for dear life and you feel it here, that means you're not doing it right. It should just be very, I mean, like your arm weighs a ton and the string is just keeping your arm from falling into the floor. That was better. I had a little skip though. You heard da-dum. Yeah? And again, if you try to just wiggle the string and you get, like if you get some accidental interruptions, then that means you're not right in the center of the core of the string. Because if you think about it, the string is just a really skinny cylinder. It's a very skinny cylinder shape, and you want to get right in the middle of that core. If you're just above it or below it, you're missing out on some optimal sound. And again, listen to your body. If your elbow hurts or if you feel tight, then you're pushing instead of letting the arm sink. The other way I think about it too, like a floppy fish. For some reason, I don't know why, that just makes me really help. I just kind of think of, And then, of course, we have to adjust the posture of the arm. I can't play like that. I have to lead a little bit from the elbow when I pull and the wrist when I push. But if you're pressing up, I mean, because here's the thing, it looks like I'm doing the exercise right. But do you hear that? There's a lot of noise when I try to wiggle the string. So it initially looks right, but because there's so much coming out, it's wrong. You should only be hearing those noises when you are purposefully sinking in and just pulling out the tiniest down bow you can. When you're doing stage 1, which is just wiggling the string. Whoops. I was talking, so. When you're doing this, whoops. What? There shouldn't be that much sound. Nothing. Except for that little. But you see the difference? Like, it's not happening every half a second. I get an occasional one. And then... See, that's kind of the difference. That was the incorrect way. Let me know if anyone has any questions about that. That's a really good one for getting into the core of the string and really doing it with your body weight rather than pressing down on it. And you can also try it. Someone wrote, is it odd that I kind of enjoy that sound? No. You sound like a modern composer, maybe. Maybe that. It reminds me, honestly, of frogs. Just like a ribbit. And frogs are really cute. As well as the toads. You know? Really sweet, sweet toads. So I don't think there's anything wrong with liking the sound. But I hope you all can hear the difference. I always wonder if over a stream, you are going to miss some things, but sound-wise. But that's a big, big difference if you can really work on, and again, on the other strings, that's like a Mrs. Frog. Now let's do A string. So A string's a little tricky because you need to have your elbow up so you're not clearing the string, but you gotta make sure you're not overdoing it. So that's why when you're doing bow weight exercises, really start from the bottom. I highly recommend starting from the bottom because I see some students go, I'm ready, and then they're way too high because they start on the A string and they have no point of reference. So that's why we're working our way up to see how much height do we really need. If you start from the A string, you don't always have a good reference, so. That wasn't good. And you really feel the different angles your body needs too. The C string versus the A string, you really got to get used to it. Oh man, anyone logging onto this stream at the end, they're going to be like, what is she doing? They're like, Cello doll is gone. What is she doing? No one could, don't take that as a sound bite, me making regurgitative noises, please. But yeah, that's a fun exercise. And you know, there were a couple times I didn't do it 100%, so that tells me I should revisit that. But a lot of it's still stuck. And yeah, my body feels fine. Like I was lifting, I don't know, paper plates. Like my body's not tired at all from that. So if your body's tired, it's a sign you're not tapping fully into your weight. So then I would assess the shoulder, unhinge the shoulder, unhinge the elbow, and try it again. And you might get closer to that very tiny croak frog sound. All right, my dolls, thank you all so much for a wonderful stream. I'm so grateful for your patience in rescheduling the stream due to some sound issues. I vow that I am always going to put my interface where it lives on my desk. You guys should have seen me last week when I looked at my desk and I was like, it's not there. Because it always lives in a certain spot on my desk. So I promise I won't misplace my own interface in my own home. But, you know, we got to talk about some tech, which I think is important. And it's a giant rabbit hole. The only reason I can explain it is because I have spent years pulling my hair out, figuratively, of course, about it. So it can be complicated, but if you are interested in knowing more about gear, you know, double check your laptops, double check you have the right ports and things like that. But again, I really appreciate your patience waiting for the stream to come. We are still going to do one at the end of February. So this was a makeup for last week, which was January. We are still, I still plan on it. Unless I get a dream gig, like I tour the world with Lady Gaga or something. Can you imagine? That's my dream gig, honestly. Number one dream is to do something with Gaga. It's pretty number one. Anyways, cool. So we'll be back in February. And yeah, thank you all so much for your patience and for contributing beautifully to the conversation as always. And we'll see you at the end of February. And you know what Shelly and I are going to tell you in the meantime.